Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you, Tavis, for today, for your leadership on climate change. Appreciate it very much because you're always on the front line. And, you know, when I think of climate change, we're getting ready, as the prediction is, and I'm sure other people have spoken about this, to have an extremely hot summer. And it's already starting. I mean, this is supposed to be June gloom. There's no June gloom. It's hot out there. And I appreciate the poll that showed, of course, Black people care about climate. Last summer, we know, was the hottest summer on record. And here locally, we experienced the first tropical storm to hit Los Angeles in 84 years. You remember that? I mean, they talked about we were going to have a hurricane. I remember when the fire chief called me and said that, you know, we were going to go into an emergency and have a hurricane. I mean, I'm an Angelino. I have no idea about a hurricane, you know, just seen them on TV. But one of the things that we learned last year, though, is that weather events that we never thought about here, we now have to think about. And I think that that's an example. When I think about that this year is going to be the hottest summer that we've experienced in a long time, you know I'm not going to get up here and talk to you without talking about our unhoused Black folk that are on the street. Well, we always have emergency housing for the rain. Now we have to have emergency housing for the heat. And if you just think about it, in the rain, you can seek shelter. In the heat, what do you do? When the sidewalks get so hot that you can fry an egg, where does someone go? Because in our city, not every place is air conditioned. So even those emergency shelters that we use for the rain might not be adequate for the heat. So now we have to budget and plan to get folks into shelters during the summer as well as the winter. So to my administration, climate change is very important and in the center of it. And so we've just established a climate cabinet. And that climate cabinet is going to focus on implementation and actions that Los Angeles can do to have a more sustainable, resilient, and equitable city for all of our residents. I know that Cynthia McLean Hill is here because I just saw her a few minutes ago. Where are you, Cynthia? Raise your hand. So you know that Cynthia, in her years of working at the Department of Water and Power, really established a whole strategy around climate change that we're going to continue to implement and follow up on the work that you've done for years. So even in our city, we have all kinds of oil wells. You know the Stocker oil field by Kenny Hahn Park, over 350 oil wells there, most of them privately owned by families. And I remember that we were told about 20 years ago, and you remember this, Mark, when we were in the assembly together, those oil wells were supposed to dry up in 25 years. And that was going to turn into the nation's largest urban park, even bigger than Central Park. Well, it's been 20 years and those oil wells aren't dry because people have figured out new ways of going after oil. And so we're going to continue to have these issues. I remember there is a oil well right near USC that was owned by a company called Alanco. And when I was in Congress, we worked to shut that oil well down. Well, there was an apartment building right across the street from that oil well. And I remember this girl at the time because she was just in high school. Now she's a grown woman. And when she was a child, she would experience bloody nose and headaches on a regular basis. Well, she graduated. She became a successful advocate for climate and to get the oil wells shut down. We finally did. She goes off to college and then is diagnosed with cancer. And I'm happy to say that she is a survivor now and that she, yes. And that she continues to be an advocate, but she lost her ability to conceive because of that. So a few weeks ago, I welcomed Secretary Haaland here, who's the first Native American woman to ever be a member of a presidential cabinet. and she is the Secretary for the Interior, and she was here to announce new federal funding coming from the State Department of Interior to plug and restore orphan well sites. So hopefully we'll be able to continue to address these issues in our community. We have to. It is a matter of our survival. But I do feel good with the leadership that we have here, with KBLA, with Tavis doing the work that he does, carrying out the work that Cynthia did, and many of the people in this room, that we will be able to address this crisis. But we also have to make sure that we never allow people to think that Black folks are not concerned about climate change. We understand when our communities are at risk. We understand when our health is at risk. And we're going to do whatever we can to make sure that we don't continue to be the brunt. We had a whole environmental justice movement develop because communities of color were excluded from the broader environmental movement. So we will continue to make our voices heard. And when we fight for change for our community, everyone benefits. Thank you.